She was just a cleaning lady trying to survive another night shift. One accidental kiss in a dark museum woke a vampire king who'd been sealed for centuries. Now her son is the heir every monster in the shadows wants to control, and she's the only thing standing between him and a crown that could destroy them both. The eviction notice was pink. Arya had always thought they'd be white, official-looking. But no, hers was bubblegum pink, taped to her apartment door like a sick birthday invitation. You have 72 hours to vacate the premises. She tore it down, crumpled it, and shoved it deep into her jacket pocket where her 8-year-old son Theo wouldn't see it. He was already asking too many questions about why they kept moving, why his friends from school never came over anymore, why Mommy cried in the bathroom with the water running. Mom, Theo's voice drifted from inside. Can I have the last Pop-Tart? Save it for breakfast, baby, her voice cracked. She cleared her throat. I'm heading out for work, but it's nighttime. I know. Emergency shift. Mrs. Chin next door will check on you, okay? Silence. Then, okay. Arya pressed her forehead against the door. 3 days. She had 3 days to come up with 2 months' rent, or they'd be on the street. Again. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Hello. Arya Valdez? This is Night Star Cleaning Agency. We have an urgent overnight assignment. Royal History Museum. Vandalism in the Restoration Wing. Pays triple rate, cash tonight. You available? Triple rate. Arya's heart hammered.
Yes.
When?
Now.
Security lets you in at 11. Finish by dawn. Don't touch anything in the sealed exhibits. The line went dead. Arya stared at her phone. She'd been fired from her daytime cleaning job 2 weeks ago for being late. Theo had been sick, the clinic had been packed, her manager hadn't cared. Night Star was her last backup agency, and they only called for jobs nobody else wanted. But triple rate meant $600. Enough to buy time. Maybe enough to keep the lights on. She kissed Theo through the crack in the door. I love you. Lock up behind me. Love you too, Mom. The Royal History Museum loomed like a cathedral of secrets. Arya had cleaned office buildings, warehouses, even a morgue once. But she'd never set foot inside a museum this grand. The night guard, a bored college kid with earbuds in, barely glanced at her ID before waving her through. Restoration Wing. Basement level. Don't go past the yellow tape. Police are still investigating. Investigating what? He shrugged. Some psycho smashed up the new vampire exhibit. Blood everywhere. Probably fake though. Arya's stomach twisted. Vampire exhibit. Of course. She descended the marble staircase, her cleaning cart rattling behind her. The basement corridors stretched endlessly, lined with crates and scaffolding. Drop cloths covered half-assembled displays. A sign read, Legends of the Night, opening spring 2026. Yellow police tape blocked the main hall. But the side restoration room, where she'd been assigned, was open. Arya stepped inside and froze. The room looked like a crime scene. Not vandalism. A battle. Shattered glass glittered across the floor. Deep gouges scarred the walls. And blood, dark, almost black, streaked the antique workbenches. Her hands trembled as she pulled on latex gloves. Just clean it.
Get paid.
Go home. She started with the glass, sweeping carefully. Her mind wandered to Theo, to the eviction notice, to the past due bills stacked on her kitchen counter. Her son deserved better than this. Better than cold Pop-Tarts and borrowed bedrooms, and a mother who couldn't keep a job. Arya moved to the back wall, wiping down a row of artifacts. Medieval daggers. Iron chains. A stone tablet covered in symbols she didn't recognize. That's when she saw it. A crack in the wall. No, not a crack. A seam. Hidden behind a damaged panel that had been knocked loose in whatever violence had happened here. Curiosity overrode caution. Arya pulled the panel aside. Behind it was a door. Ancient. Sealed with wax and chains and symbols that made her skin crawl. She should have walked away. Should have finished her shift and left. But the door was already open. Just slightly. As if someone or something had tried to break out. Arya pushed it wider. The chamber beyond was freezing. Her breath fogged in the air. A single overhead light flickered, casting shadows across walls carved with murals of battles, of creatures with fangs and crowns, of a kingdom drowned in blood. And in the center of the room stood a sarcophagus. Not stone.
Glass.
Perfectly clear, impossibly pristine. Inside lay a man. Arya's scream died in her throat. He was beautiful. Inhumanly so. Pale skin like marble, sharp cheekbones, black hair that fell across his forehead. He wore ancient clothing, leather and silk, embroidered with silver thread. His hands were folded across his chest. And through his heart, pinning him to the glass, was a dagger. Silver. With roots that seemed to grow into his flesh. He wasn't breathing, but he wasn't decayed either. He looked like he'd been placed there yesterday. Arya stepped closer, her pulse roaring in her ears. Blood stained his lips. Fresh blood. Her hand moved without permission. She pulled a cloth from her pocket and reached through a crack in the glass, leaned in, wiped the blood away. His eyes opened. Arya gasped and stumbled back. They were silver, glowing, fixed on her face. His lips moved. A whisper, hoarse and ancient. Arya. She'd never told him her name. How do you? Kiss me? What? Kiss me, or I stay here forever. And so does he. He? Who? But her body was already moving. Some instinct deeper than thought, older than reason. She leaned forward, pressed her lips to his cold mouth. The glass exploded. Energy erupted through the chamber like a shockwave. Arya was thrown backward, crashing into the wall. The lights burst. The murals glowed. And the man rose. The dagger clattered to the floor, its silver roots withering to ash. He stood, towering, terrifying, eyes blazing with power that made the air hum. Where, he said, his voice echoing like thunder, is the air? Alarms shrieked through the museum. Arya couldn't breathe, couldn't think, because she suddenly understood why her son had nightmares about silver eyes. Why his full name, Theo Vladmirson, had always felt too heavy for a little boy. And why, when this stranger said the air, every instinct in her body screamed, he means Theo. The man moved like liquid shadow, crossing the chamber in a heartbeat. His hand closed around Arya's throat, not squeezing, just holding her in place with impossible strength. Your pulse, he murmured, tilting his head. It remembers. Let go of me. Arya's voice shook but held firm. Years of fighting for her son had taught her not to crumble, even when she wanted to. His silver eyes narrowed. You freed me. Why? I didn't. I was just cleaning. Lies taste different than truth, he released her, stepping back. His movements were unsteady, like a newborn learning to walk. You felt it. The pull. The bond. Arya scrambled to her feet, putting distance between them. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm a cleaner. This is a mistake. No. He turned to face the shattered sarcophagus, running his fingers over the remnants. The glass of eternal sleep cannot be broken from outside. Only a bloodline key could wake me, his gaze snapped back to her. You are descended from the Treaty Keepers. The what? Humans who allied with my kind during the faction wars. They carried our mark. He moved closer, and Arya saw fangs glinting behind his lips. You carry it still, dormant in your veins. That's why you could wake me. The alarms were getting louder. Arya heard shouts, footsteps pounding down the corridor. I need to go. My son. Your son, the word stopped him cold. How old? That's none of your. How old? The chamber walls trembled.
8.
He's 8 years old, and I need to get back to him. The stranger went perfectly still. Then, quietly. What is his name? Arya's heart stopped. She knew, somehow she knew, she shouldn't answer. But those silver eyes held her captive. Theo, she whispered. Theo Vladmirson. The man staggered backward like he'd been struck. Valdmerson. My name. My bloodline, he looked at her with something between wonder and horror. You named him heir without even knowing. It was my grandmother's maiden name, a family tradition. Your grandmother, he laughed, sharp and bitter. The humans always forget. They pass down names like trinkets, never understanding what they mean. He moved to the door, listening. How many are coming? What? Armed men. How many? I don't know. Look, I don't understand any of this. The door exploded inward. But it wasn't police. Wasn't museum security. 6 figures in black tactical gear poured into the chamber, weapons raised. Not guns, something else. Devices that hummed with ultraviolet light, crossbows loaded with silver bolts. Target acquired. One spoke into a radio. Vladimir is awake. Repeat. The king is awake. Vladimir. The name hit Arya like ice water. The stranger, the king, smiled. You're too late, House Umbra. The seal is broken. Then we'll kill you properly this time. The lead soldier growled. Everything happened at once. Vladimir moved faster than Arya's eyes could track. One soldier went down, neck snapped. Another fired a crossbow bolt. Vladimir caught it midair and drove it through a third soldier's knee. The UV devices flared, and he hissed, recoiling, smoke rising from his exposed skin. The woman, someone shouted. Grab the woman. Hands seized Arya from behind. She screamed, thrashing, but the soldier dragged her toward the door. If she woke him, she's bloodline. House Vargas will pay fortune for her. Vladimir's head snapped around. His eyes met Arya's. For a split second, she saw something in his face, not rage, but calculation. He was deciding if she was worth saving. Then his expression hardened. She is mine. He tore through the remaining soldiers like paper. The one holding Arya released her and ran. She collapsed, gasping, as Vladimir dispatched the last attacker with brutal efficiency. Silence fell, broken only by the alarms and her ragged breathing. Vladimir stood among the bodies, blood on his hands, looking every inch the monster from Legends. You saved me, Arya choked out.
Why?
Because you are the only one who knows where the heir is, he crouched before her, terrifyingly gentle. And because your son's existence means everything I fought for wasn't lost, he offered his hand.
Come.
More will arrive soon. House Umbra never travels in small numbers. I'm not going anywhere with you. Then they will find your son without you, his voice dropped. Those men? They kill children, Arya. Especially children who threaten the power structure. Your Theo carries vampire genetics, whether you understand it or not. The moment my awakening was detected, every faction in the underworld began hunting for the heir. He is ours. Maybe less. Arya's blood turned to ice. You're lying. Am I? He gestured to the dead soldiers. They found me in minutes. How long before they find a child? She thought of Theo, alone in their apartment, Mrs. Chen half-deaf and watching TV too loud to hear anything wrong. If you're lying to me, then kill me yourself, he pulled her to her feet. But decide now. They're in the building. Arya heard it then. More footsteps. More voices. Coming closer. She grabbed Vladimir's hand. Get me to my son. That's all I care about. He smiled, fangs glinting. Spoken like a true keeper. Now run. They fled into the darkness as the museum above them erupted into chaos. The museum tunnels reeked of decay and old stone. Arya's lungs burned as Vladimir pulled her through passages she hadn't known existed, their footsteps echoing off walls that looked centuries old. Where are we going? She gasped. Service exit. The old catacombs connect to the metro tunnels. He moved without hesitation, as if the layout was memorized. I helped build these. Escape routes for my court. How long were you in that thing? 347 years. Give or take. His grip on her wrist tightened as they rounded a corner. Tell me about the boy. Does he dream? What? Vivid dreams. Nightmares of silver and blood. Does he wake up screaming? Arya's stomach dropped. How do you know that? Vladimir stopped so abruptly, she crashed into him. His eyes glowed in the darkness. Because the bloodline calls to its own. If he's dreaming of me, the awakening has already started. Awakening? He's 8 years old. And carrying the last pure strain of vampire royalty in his DNA, Vladimir resumed walking, faster now. When you kissed me, you didn't just break my seal. You triggered his. That's insane. Is it? Tell me, Arya, has your son always been different? Stronger than other children? Faster? Does he see better in the dark? She wanted to deny it, but memories flooded back. Theo catching a baseball that should have been impossible to catch. Reading street signs at night that she could barely see. The way he never got sick, never broke a bone despite being the clumsiest kid at recess. That doesn't mean he's a vampire. Not yet. But the genetics are active. Dormant. Waiting for maturity. Or, Vladimir's voice darkened. Waiting for someone to force the change early. They burst through a metal door into a maintenance corridor. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead. In the distance, Arya heard trains rumbling. My car's in the museum parking lot, she said. Too exposed. They'll have it surrounded by now. Vladimir scanned the corridor. Where is your son? Exactly. An apartment building. Maple Street. 14 blocks from here. We'll take the underground most of the way. Stay close. They ran. Arya's mind raced faster than her feet. This couldn't be real. Vampires didn't exist. Her son wasn't some prophesied heir. This was a nightmare. Had to be, and she'd wake up any second to the smell of burnt toast and Theo asking for help with his homework. But Vladimir's hand was solid in hers. The cold air bit her face. And deep in her bones, something ancient whispered. You've always known. They emerged from a service tunnel into an alley 3 blocks from her apartment. Dawn was still hours away, but the city felt wrong. Too quiet. No cars. No late-night pedestrians. Something's here, Vladimir murmured. Stay behind me. They moved through shadows until Arya's building came into view. Her heart seized. Black SUVs surrounded the entrance. Men in suits, not tactical gear this time, but the kind of suits that screamed government or money or both, stood guard. One spoke into a radio. No, no, no. Arya started forward, but Vladimir yanked her back. You'll die before you reach the door. My son is in there. And rushing in helps him how? His voice was harsh, but his eyes were calculating. Which apartment? 3rd floor. Unit 3, 14-inch. Vladimir studied the building, then smiled coldly. Fire escape. East side. Can you climb? Yes. Then we climb. They circled around back. The fire escape was rusted and creaky, but Arya barely felt it as she scrambled upward. Vladimir moved silently beside her, impossibly graceful for someone who'd been sealed away for centuries. 3rd floor. Arya's hands shook as she peered through her living room window. The apartment was tore apart. Couch cushions slashed open. Drawers dumped. Her few possessions scattered like garbage. And in the middle of it all stood Mrs. Chun, hands zip-tied, surrounded by 2 men in suits. But no Theo. Where is he? One man demanded. I don't know. Mrs. Chun sobbed. He was here an hour ago. The mother left for work. I checked on him. He was fine. Buildings are surrounded. Kid couldn't have left. Then search again. Arya's relief nearly buckled her knees. Theo wasn't here. Somehow, her baby boy had escaped. But where? Vladimir's hand pressed against the window. His eyes closed. There, he pointed down. The basement. I feel him. How can you possibly?
He's mine, Arya.
My blood, however diluted, however distant. I can feel every air of my line. His eyes opened. He's terrified. And he's not alone. They climbed down and found the basement access. The door was ajar. Inside, huddled behind the water heater, was Theo. Arya nearly screamed his name, but Vladimir covered her mouth. Because Theo wasn't alone. A woman crouched beside him.
Pale.
Beautiful. Wearing an elegant black coat that didn't belong in a dingy basement. Her hand rested protectively on Theo's shoulder. When she looked up, her eyes glowed amber. Your Majesty, she said, bowing her head. I've been waiting for you. Theo's eyes locked on Vladimir. His voice was small, trembling, but absolutely certain. I know you. From my dreams. You're the king. Vladimir stared at the boy, his heir, his legacy, his last chance, and for the first time since awakening, he looked afraid. Yes, he whispered. And you, child, are the reason I was imprisoned. The reason I must live. He knelt slowly. I am Vladimir. And you are Theo Valdmarson, the forbidden heir. Arya pushed past Vladimir and pulled Theo into her arms. Nobody's taking my son. The woman smiled sadly. I'm afraid, Mrs. Valdez, that choice is no longer yours to make. Get away from my son. Arya positioned herself between Theo and the pale woman, her voice steel. The woman raised her hands peacefully. I mean no harm. I am Lady Arden, once royal diplomat to House Vladimir. I've protected the boy since I sensed the awakening. Protected? Arya's laugh was sharp. You're hiding in my basement. Because your apartment is compromised. 3 rival factions are searching this building. Arden's amber eyes flicked to Vladimir. Your resurrection has triggered a war, my king. Every house wants the heir. Vladimir moved to Theo, studying him with intense focus. The boy didn't flinch, didn't hide. Instead, he stepped forward, out of Arya's protective embrace. You were stabbed, Theo said quietly. In my dreams. Silver roots growing through your heart. I tried to pull them out, but I couldn't reach you. Vladimir's expression softened. You were calling to me. Across centuries, he touched Theo's forehead gently. Your blood recognized mine. This is insane. He's a child. He has school tomorrow. He has a life. The building shook. Dust rained from the ceiling. Distant crashes echoed from above. Furniture breaking, walls being demolished. They're tearing through the floors, Arden said urgently. Searching systematically. We have minutes. There's a crawl space, Theo spoke up. Behind the maintenance room. I hid there once when bullies followed me home. Everyone stared at him. Smart boy, Vladimir said. Show us. They squeezed through a narrow passage behind the boiler, emerging into a utility tunnel that connected to the neighboring building's parking garage. Theo led the way, his small frame navigating easily through spaces the adults had to contort to fit. How did you know to run? Arya asked, gripping his hand. I heard them coming. The stairs creaking. Mrs. Chen screaming, Theo's voice cracked. Is she okay? She's alive, Vladimir said. They need hostages who can talk. Not comforting, but honest. Arya appreciated that, at least. They emerged into the parking garage. Arya's ancient Honda sat in her assigned spot, looking even more pathetic under the fluorescent lights. Keys? Vladimir asked. Arya dug them from her pocket. You can't seriously expect this thing to outrun. Get in. They piled inside, Vladimir in passenger seat, Arden and Theo in back. Arya's hands shook as she started the engine. It coughed, sputtered, then caught. Where am I going? Drive north, Arden instructed. The old train yard. Abandoned since the city redirected the rail lines. Arya pulled out of the garage, forcing herself to drive normally despite every instinct screaming to floor it. The street appeared empty, but she caught movement in her rearview mirror, figures emerging from her building, radios raised. They've seen us, she whispered. Then drive faster, Vladimir said calmly.
Arya accelerated.
The Honda's engine whined in protest. Behind them, headlights flared to life. 2 SUVs pulled into pursuit. Mom, Theo's voice was small. It's okay, baby. Hold on tight. Vladimir twisted in his seat, watching their pursuers. They won't shoot.
They want the boy alive.
Comforting, Arya muttered, taking a sharp turn that made the tires squeal. They will, however, try to disable the vehicle, as if on cue. 1 SUV surged forward, attempting to pull alongside. Don't let them flank you. Arya swerved, cutting them off. Her heart hammered so hard, she thought it might break through her ribs. She'd never driven like this. Never broken speed limits, except by accident. Now she was fleeing vampires and armed mercenaries with her son in the back seat. Traffic light ahead is red, Arden warned. I see it. You're not stopping, are you? Vladimir asked. Arya checked both ways, clear, and blasted through the intersection. Horns blared. The SUVs followed without hesitation. Next left, Arden directed. Then immediate right. There's a gap in the fence. Arya followed instructions, her old Honda rattling with each turn. They hit a pothole and Theo yelped, but Arden's hand steadied him. The train yard appeared ahead, a wasteland of rusted tracks and gutted warehouses. The fence had collapsed in sections, leaving gaps just wide enough for a car. There.
Theo Poiten.
Arya aimed for the opening and prayed. The Honda scraped through, metal shrieking against metal. They bounced over broken concrete and weeds. Behind them, the SUVs were too wide. They screeched to a halt at the fence line. But figures poured out on foot, at least a dozen moving fast. They're coming on foot. Arya accelerated through the yard, dodging debris. Stop at the warehouse with the red door, Arden commanded. The one with the tower. Arya spotted it, a massive structure that looked like it should have been demolished decades ago. She skidded to a stop. They scrambled out. Inside. Now, Arden led them through the red door into pitch darkness. Arya clutched Theo's hand. I can't see. Light flared, not electric, but something else. Blue-white flames in sconces along the walls, igniting as they passed. The warehouse interior was impossible. It wasn't abandoned. It was inhabited. The space opened into something vast, a cavern carved beneath the building, extending far beyond what should have been possible. And everywhere, in alcoves and on platforms, in makeshift homes built from salvaged materials, were people. Pale people, with glowing eyes.
Dozens of them.
Maybe hundreds. Welcome, Arden announced, to the Bloodwell court. What remains of your kingdom, my king? Vladimir stood frozen, staring at his people, refugees living in shadows, wearing tattered clothes, watching him with expressions mixing hope and fear and desperate hunger. What happened? He whispered. You disappeared, Arden said softly. And without you, everything fell. Theo squeezed Arya's hand. Mom? Are they all vampires? Yes, baby. Are they going to hurt us? Vladimir turned, his silver eyes meeting Theo's.
No.
Because you're not prey, he raised his voice so the entire court could hear. You're the heir. And anyone who touches you answers to me. The court erupted into whispers, movement, excitement. Arya held her son closer and wondered what she'd just delivered him into. The vampires emerged from the shadows like ghosts materializing into flesh. Arya instinctively pulled Theo behind her, but the crowd kept a respectful distance, forming a semicircle around Vladimir. Their clothing was mismatched. Some wore what looked like century-old formal wear, others modern thrift store finds. All of them looked hungry. Not for blood, Arya realized. For hope. An elderly vampire stepped forward, leaning on a cane. His eyes were cloudy white. My king, we thought you lost forever. Vladimir's jaw tightened.
Matthias.
You're still alive. Barely. Most of the old guard fell during the purge. The old vampire's gaze drifted toward Theo, though he couldn't possibly see him. But the child. We heard whispers. Prophecies. We didn't believe. Believe it. Vladimir's hand settled on Theo's shoulder. The boy didn't pull away. This is Theo Valdmarson. My blood runs in his veins. The court erupted. Excited whispers, gasps, some dropping to their knees. The forbidden heir, someone breathed. Impossible. He's human. Half-blood at most. Enough, Vladimir's voice cracked like thunder. Silence fell instantly. He is under my protection. Anyone who questions his legitimacy questions me. Arden stepped forward, addressing the crowd. The heir is untrained, unturned, and unaware of our ways. He will need time, protection, guidance. And who made you spokesman, Arden? A woman pushed through the crowd, tall, elegant, wearing a leather jacket that looked expensive even covered in dust. Her eyes were ice blue. Some of us remember when you served House Umbra. I serve the throne, Celeste. As I always have, Arden's tone was dangerous. Where were you when House Umbra hunted the king's descendants? I found them. I protected them. You hid them away like cowards. I kept them alive.
Theo tu ghét Arisha, Lee.
Mom, I don't like this. Me neither, baby. Arya scanned for exits. The blue flames provided the only light, casting everything in eerie shadows. The crowd had grown. She counted at least 50 vampires now. Maybe more in the darkness beyond. Vladimir raised his hand, and both women fell silent. Where are we exactly? How many survive?
Matthias answered.
143, my king. All that remains of 6 great houses. We've lived here since the city condemned the train yard 15 years ago. The humans don't come. The hunters don't search abandoned places. Yet the woman called Celeste crossed her arms. The heir's awakening will draw every hunter from here to the coast. This sanctuary won't last. Then we fight, someone called out. With what? Another voice challenged. We have no weapons.
No allies.
Half of us are too weak to hunt properly. We have the king. We have a king who's been sealed for 3 centuries. What does he know of this new world? Arguments broke out across the court. Arya felt Theo pressing against her back, trembling. Vladimir moved through the crowd toward a raised platform, probably once a foreman's office, now serving as a throne room. He climbed the steps and turned, his presence commanding silence. You're right to question me, he said, his voice carrying effortlessly. I know nothing of your struggles, your losses, the world that turned against you. His eyes swept the crowd. But I know this, we survive. We adapt. We've done it for millennia. We'll do it again. Pretty words, Celeste called out. But the heir is human. What good is he to us now? He's my blood. That makes him invaluable. To you, perhaps. House Vargas wants him crowned immediately. House Umbra wants him dead. The hunters want him dissected. Tell me, king, how do we protect a child from all of that? Vladimir's silence was answer enough. Arden stepped onto the platform beside him. The heir must be tested.
Properly.
We need to confirm the bloodline strength, the genetic markers, the potential for. No. Arya's voice cut through the chamber. Every eye turned to her. She pushed through the crowd, Theo's hand locked in hers. Absolutely not. Mrs. Valdez. Arden began. My son isn't a science experiment. He's not your weapon or your symbol or your political tool. Arya's voice shook but held firm. He's 8 years old. Yesterday, his biggest worry was a math test. Now you want to do what exactly? Turn him? Crown him? Parade him around so your enemies know where to aim. Celeste laughed. The human has teeth. I like her. This isn't funny. Arya turned to Vladimir. You said you'd protect him. Does that include protecting him from your own people? Vladimir descended the platform until he stood before her. His silver eyes were unreadable. The boy must be tested, not to transform him, to confirm what he is, what he can become. And if I refuse, then you condemn him to ignorance. And ignorance, in this world, is death. He crouched to Theo's level. Do you understand what's happening, boy?
Theo not dead so loud.
People want to use me because of my blood.
Yes.
And if we don't know exactly what that blood can do, we can't protect you from them. What kind of tests?
Arya demanded.
Matthias shuffled forward. Blood resonance. Genetic mapping. We have equipment, salvaged from medical facilities. It's not invasive. The boy won't be harmed. He's scared, Arya said. So am I, Vladimir replied quietly. But fear doesn't pause for comfort. Theo looked up at his mother. It's okay, Mom. I want to know too, his voice dropped to a whisper. I want to know why I dream about him. Why I always felt different. Arya's heart broke. Her baby boy, trying to be brave. She looked at Vladimir. I stay with him. Every second. If anyone tries anything. You'll do what? Celeste called out. You're human. Vladimir's head turned slowly toward Celeste. She's the mother of the heir. That makes her untouchable. Spread the word. He offered his hand to Theo.
Come, boy.
Let's find out what you truly are. Theo took it, and Arya followed her son deeper into the vampire court, wondering if she'd just made the worst mistake of her life. The medical chamber was a grotesque blend of centuries. Ancient surgical tables stood beside modern monitors. Glass vials containing dark liquids lined shelves next to laptop computers running diagnostic software. The blue flames here burned brighter, sterile. 3 vampire medics waited, 2 women and a man, all wearing mismatched scrubs that looked stolen from different hospitals. Your Majesty the eldest, a woman with silver-streaked black hair, bowed. I am Dr. Saren. I trained under the royal physicians before the fall. Can you perform the bloodline verification? Vladimir asked.
Yes.
Though our equipment is limited, she gestured to Theo. May I? Arya stepped between them. Explain everything first. Every test. Every needle. Everything. Dr. Saren's expression softened. Of course. First, we need a blood sample. Just a few drops. We'll test for genetic markers specific to vampire royalty, chromosomal anomalies, cellular regeneration rates, photosensitivity indicators. In English, Arya demanded. We're checking if his cells can do things human cells can't. Heal faster. Resist certain toxins. Respond to stimuli that would kill normal humans. Theo squeezed Arya's hand. Like superhero blood. Dr. Saren smiled slightly. Something like that, young one. Will it hurt? A pinch. Nothing more. Theo looked at his mother. Arya saw her baby trying to be brave and wanted to scoop him up, run back to their crappy apartment, pretend none of this existed. But men with guns had torn through their home. Her son had hidden in a basement, terrified. Running wasn't an option anymore. Okay, she whispered. But I'm holding your other hand. They positioned Theo on a chair. Arya sat beside him while Dr. Saren prepared a needle. The other medics powered up monitors, displaying readouts Arya couldn't begin to understand. Small prick, Dr. Saren warned. Theo winced but didn't cry out. Dark blood, almost too dark, filled the vial. Vladimir leaned forward, watching intently. His blood is darker than normal humans. Higher iron content, Dr. Saren observed. Consistent with dormant vampire genetics, she transferred the blood to a strange device, part microscope, part something else entirely. Now we wait 3 minutes for initial results. The silence was suffocating. Arden stood by the door keeping watch. Celeste had followed them down, leaning against the wall with arms crossed, studying Theo like he was a puzzle to solve. Does it hurt? Theo asked suddenly, looking at Vladimir. Being a vampire? The question caught everyone off guard. Vladimir considered it. Sometimes, when you're hungry, when the sun rises and every instinct screams to hide, when you watch centuries pass and everyone you loved turns to dust. That sounds lonely. It is. Then why do people want to be vampires? Power. Immortality. Fear of death. Vladimir's silver eyes glinted. Most who seek it don't understand the cost. Would I have to become one? A vampire? Arya's breath caught. Dr. Saren paused her work. Everyone waited for Vladimir's answer. Not unless you choose it, he said firmly. Vampire law is absolute on this matter. No forced turning. Especially not for children. You would have to wait until adulthood. 18 years minimum. And, even then, only with your consent. Relief flooded through Arya. So, he's safe? From being turned. From legal turning, Celeste interjected. Illegal turnings happen. Rogue vampires don't care about laws. Which is why he stays protected, Vladimir said coldly. Anyone who attempts unauthorized turning faces true death. The monitor beeped. Dr. Saren leaned close, reading the display. Her expression shifted from curious to shocked to something like awe. What is it?
Arya demanded.
His markers. They're not just present. They're pristine. Dr. Saren looked at Vladimir. Your Majesty, this child carries undiluted royal bloodline. Not diluted by generations of human breeding. It's as if he's a direct descendant, Vladimir finished. Not a distant cousin.
Impossible, Celeste bretted.
You had no children. Not in body, Vladimir's voice was distant. But I preserved my genetic material. Insurance, in case House Umbra succeeded in killing me. I gave it to the treaty keepers for safekeeping. Arya's mind reeled. You're saying my grandmother was chosen to carry the legacy. The genetics were introduced artificially. Generations ago. Dormant. Waiting, he looked at Theo. Waiting for the right catalyst. My awakening. This is insane, Arya whispered. Run the full panel, Vladimir ordered. I need to know everything he can do. The next hour was a nightmare. They tested Theo's reflexes, faster than normal. His vision, he could read text in near darkness that Arya couldn't see. His healing, a small scratch sealed itself in minutes instead of days. Through it all, Theo remained calm. Too calm for an 8-year-old. Like some part of him had been expecting this. Finally, Dr. Saren delivered the verdict. The boy is human. Fully human. His heart beats, he breathes, he ages. But his genetics are prepared for vampire ascension. When he reaches maturity, should he choose to turn, the transformation would be unprecedented. He wouldn't become a typical vampire. He'd become something closer to the original bloodline. True royalty. How much closer? Celeste asked. Dr. Saren hesitated. In theory, as powerful as the king himself. Perhaps more so. The room fell silent. Vladimir stared at Theo with an expression Arya couldn't read.
Prida?
Fear? Both. Then the prophecies were true, Matthias said from the doorway. Arya hadn't noticed him arrive. The forbidden heir. Born to unite the scattered houses. To restore what was lost. Or destroy what remains, Celeste muttered. That much power in one being? Every faction will want to control him. Or kill him. Neither will happen, Vladimir's voice was absolute. I name him heir under protection.
No crown. No throne. Not yet.
But the full weight of royal authority shields him. And when he comes of age? Arden asked quietly. Vladimir looked at Arya. That choice belongs to him. And his mother. Arya pulled Theo into her arms. We're leaving.
Right now.
New city. New names. Somewhere none of you can find us. They'll find you anywhere, Celeste said. Better here, protected, than running blind. She's right, Vladimir said. But I won't force you to stay. Arya looked at her son. Really looked at him. Saw the silver flecks in his brown eyes she'd never noticed before. The way he didn't look tired despite everything. What do you want, Theo? He was quiet for a long moment. Then, I want to know how to protect us. Both of us. Smart boy. Too smart. Then we stay, Arya said. But on my terms. He goes to school. Lives like a normal kid. And nobody treats him like a weapon. Vladimir extended his hand. Agreed.
She didn't shake it.
Prove it first. He smiled slightly. Fair enough. 3 days in the Bloodwell court felt like 3 years. Arya had been given a small room carved into the underground. Just a bed, a lamp, and a door that locked from the inside. Theo slept in the adjoining space, though he barely seemed to need sleep anymore. She'd wake at odd hours to find him sitting up, eyes reflecting the blue flame light, listening to sounds she couldn't hear. It terrified her. But what terrified her more was the alternative. Running, always running, with her son's face plastered on every hunter's most wanted list. On the 4th morning, or what passed for morning in the perpetual twilight of the underground, Arden knocked on her door. Mrs. Valdez. We have a problem. Arya pulled on her jacket. What now? Arden handed her a tablet. On the screen, a news broadcast. Authorities are searching for Arya Valdez and her 8-year-old son Theo in connection with the Royal History Museum break-in. Security footage shows Valdez entering the building hours before the incident. Museum staff report extensive damage, and several security personnel remain hospitalized. If you have any information... Arya's face filled the screen. Her employee ID photo from Night Star Cleaning. They're calling you a suspect, Arden said quietly. Claiming you vandalized the exhibit. Possibly part of a theft ring. That's insane. I was cleaning. They need a human scapegoat. The alternative is admitting vampires are real. Arden took the tablet back. But it gets worse. Show her, Celeste. Celeste emerged from the shadows holding a different tablet. This was posted 2 hours ago.
Dark web. Interforum.
The image made Aria's blood freeze. Theo's school photo. His full name. Their old address. And beneath it, royal bloodline confirmed. $5 million reward. Alive preferred. 5 million, Arya whispered. Every hunter, rogue vampire, and mercenary from here to Europe now knows your son exists, Celeste said. Your apartment building has been under surveillance since yesterday. They raided your coworker's place. Questioned your son's teacher. His classmates. Aria's knees went weak. Mrs. Patterson? She's 70 years old.
She's fine.
Shaken, but fine, Celeste's expression was grim. But they know everything now. Theo's medical records, perfect health, never sick, unusual blood test results from a school screening last year. They're connecting dots. Where is Theo? Training yard with Vladimir, Arden said. He's safe. Arya pushed past them, running through the tunnels until she found the yard, a vast open space where vampires practiced combat, their movements too fast to follow. Theo stood in the center with Vladimir, holding a wooden practice sword. Again, Vladimir instructed. Faster.
Tausum.
Vladimir blocked effortlessly. You're thinking like a human. Stop thinking. React. I am human. Your instincts aren't. Vladimir tapped Theo's forehead. Trust what you feel, not what you know. Theo tried again. This time, his movement was faster, not vampire fast, but faster than any 8-year-old should be. The wooden blade whistled through air. Vladimir smiled. Better. Stop. Arya ran forward. What are you doing to him? Teaching him to survive, Vladimir said calmly. Would you prefer he remain defenseless? He's a child. He's a target. Vladimir's eyes were hard.
You saw the bounty.
How long before someone kidnaps him from a playground? Snatches him on his way to school? Then we disappear. Where? Vladimir gestured around them. We have resources. Protection. Out there, you have nothing. I have my son, and that's all I need. Mom, Theo's quiet voice stopped her. I want to learn. Arya stared at him. When had he gotten taller? Had it been days? Or was she imagining it? Sweetheart, you shouldn't have to. But I do. Theo's eyes. Were those silver flecks always there? Met hers steadily. Bad people want to hurt me.
Hurt you.
I can't let that happen. Vladimir rested a hand on Theo's shoulder. He's stronger than you think. He's 8. I was 6 when I killed my first enemy, Vladimir said quietly. My father thought I was too young too. He was wrong. That's horrible. That's reality. He turned back to Theo. Again. And this time, an explosion rocked the underground. Dust rained from the ceiling. Screams echoed from the main chamber. The blue flames flickered and died, plunging everything into darkness. Emergency lights kicked on, red and harsh. Vladimir's expression went deadly. We're under attack.
How?
Celeste appeared, weapons drawn. This location is secret. Another explosion.
Closer this time.
The tunnel entrance collapsed, blocking the main exit. They followed the surveillance, Arden said, arriving with Matthias. The Hunter forums. Someone tracked Aria's digital footprint, her phone, her car's GPS. I turned my phone off.
Arya protested.
Doesn't matter. They can track switched-off phones if they have the right equipment. Arden grabbed Aria's arm. Government hunters. They're using thermal imaging to map the underground. Drilling charges to breach the tunnels. Vampires poured into the training yard, panic spreading. Parents clutched children. The elderly huddled together. How many entrances? Vladimir demanded.
4.
3 are blocked now, Matthias reported. The north tunnel is still clear, but The wall exploded inward. Armed soldiers poured through, not like the mercenaries at the museum. These wore full tactical gear, UV flood lamps mounted on their rifles, weapons loaded with silver ammunition. Federal Paranormal Response Unit. A voice boomed. Nobody move. We're looking for the child. Surrender him, and nobody gets hurt. Vampires scattered. Some tried to fight, were cut down by UV beams and silver rounds. Others fled deeper into the tunnels. Vladimir shoved Theo toward Arya.
Run.
North tunnel. Don't stop. What about you? I'll buy you time. His eyes blazed silver. Go. Arya grabbed Theo's hand and ran. Behind them, she heard Vladimir roar, a sound that shook the walls. Heard gunfire. Screams. The horrible sizzle of UV light burning vampire flesh. The north tunnel was narrow, dark, sloping downward. Arya's lungs burned. Theo kept pace easily, his hand steady in hers. They burst into a junction where 3 paths diverged. And standing in the center, waiting for them, was a man in a black suit. He smiled.
Hello, Arya. Hello, Theo.
We've been looking everywhere for you. He raised a tranquilizer gun. Don't make this difficult. Arya threw herself in front of Theo as the man fired. The dart hit her shoulder. Ice flooded her veins. Her knees buckled, but she stayed upright through sheer will, shoving Theo behind her. Mom. Theo's voice seemed to come from underwater. The man in the suit lowered his weapon, frowning. That dosage should have dropped you instantly.
Stay.
Away, Arya's words slurred. The world tilted. Then Theo screamed, not in fear, but in rage. The temperature plummeted. Frost spread across the tunnel walls. The man stumbled backward, his breath fogging. What the? Theo's eyes blazed silver white. Pure power radiated from him, raw and uncontrolled. The dart in Arya's shoulder froze solid and shattered. The ice in her veins evaporated. Don't touch my mother, Theo said, his voice layered with something ancient. The man raised his gun again, but a blade burst through his chest from behind. He gasped, looked down at the silver tip protruding from his sternum, and collapsed. Behind him stood Arden, breathing hard, her elegant coat splattered with blood.
Run.
Now she pulled them forward. More coming. They fled deeper into the tunnels. Behind them, explosions continued. Gunfire. Screams that would haunt Arya's nightmares forever. What happened back there?
Arya gasped.
Theo, your eyes. I don't know. Theo's voice cracked. I just got so angry, and then it felt like ice in my chest and... Awakening surge. Arden panted. Extreme stress triggered a power manifestation. It shouldn't be possible this young, but... She skidded to a halt at a steel door. Here. She punched in a code. The door opened to reveal a service tunnel lined with ancient pipes. They ran until they reached a ladder leading up. Where does this go? Arya asked. Abandoned subway station. Old red line, decommissioned in the 60s. Arden climbed first, checking the exit.
Clear.
Move. They emerged into a crumbling platform covered in graffiti. Moonlight filtered through broken skylights. Arya had lost all sense of time underground. What about the others?
Theo asked.
Vladimir? Dr. Saren? The king can handle himself. The others, Arden's jaw tightened. Some will escape. Some won't. We left them, Theo whispered. We just ran. We survived. That's what matters. Arden led them up a maintenance stairway to street level. They emerged behind a shuttered bodega, the city night oddly normal around them. There's a safe house 3 blocks north. Wheel. A black sedan pulled up beside them. The window rolled down. Celeste sat in the driver's seat, her face grim. Get in.
Now.
They piled into the car. Celeste drove before the doors fully closed. How did you? Arya started. I ran too. I'm not dying for a lost cause. Celeste's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. The cord is finished. Federal hunters will sweep every tunnel, kill every vampire they find. Vladimir's little sanctuary just became a tomb. He's alive though, right? Theo asked anxiously. Probably. He's hard to kill. Celeste took a sharp turn. But everything else is gone. Our supplies. Our medical equipment. Our people. Arya watched the city blur past. Normal people walking dogs, grabbing late-night food, living lives that didn't include vampires and gun battles. Where are we going? Neutral ground. The Crimson Bazaar. Arden checked her phone. I've called an emergency council. The surviving houses need to decide what happens next. What houses? Arya asked. You said everyone lived in the court. The court held refugees. But the noble houses maintained separate strongholds, Celeste's voice dripped with bitterness. The aristocracy kept their distance. Couldn't be bothered mixing with common vampires. They drove to the industrial district, stopping at a warehouse that looked abandoned but had security cameras hidden in every corner. Celeste knocked in a pattern. The door opened. Inside was chaos. Vampires crowded the space. Dozens, maybe 100. These looked different from the court refugees. Better dressed. Better fed. They argued in clusters, voices rising. The king's return was supposed to save us. He led the hunters straight to the court. The air is too dangerous. A massive vampire in ornate armor silenced them with a booming voice. Enough. Lady Arden arrives. Let her speak. Arden pushed through the crowd, pulling Theo with her. Arya followed, her heart hammering. Lord Vargas, Arden bowed slightly. The court has fallen. We need sanctuary. Lord Vargas studied Theo with predatory interest. This is the heir? Yes. He seems small. He's 8, Arya snapped. What did you expect? Vargas smiled, revealing fangs. Spirit. I like that in humans, his expression hardened. But the boy has caused nothing but chaos. The hunters found us because of him. The hunters found us because someone leaked our location, Celeste interjected. The question is who? A woman emerged from the shadows. Pale, regal, wearing a dress that looked like it cost more than Arya's car. Her eyes were ice blue, calculating. House Umbra had nothing to do with it, she said smoothly. Duchess Morvina, Arden's voice went cold. Interesting timing, showing up here. I came to offer assistance. The heir needs protection, does he not? Morvina's smile was razor-sharp. House Umbra can provide that. House Umbra tried to kill the king. Arden shot back. Ancient history. We've evolved, Morvina approached Theo, who instinctively backed into Arya. The boy has potential. With proper training, proper control, he could unite the houses. Restore order. Under Umbra's banner, Lord Vargas growled. I think not. House Vargas has protected the king's bloodline for centuries. The heir belongs with us. The heir belongs with his mother, Arya said firmly. Both nobles looked at her like she was furniture that had started speaking. The human has no say in vampire politics, Morvina said dismissively. The human, a new voice rang out, is mother to the only heir that matters. Vladimir stood in the doorway, covered in blood. None of it his own. His silver eyes swept the room, and every vampire fell silent. My king, Vargas began. Silence. Vladimir walked straight to Theo, kneeling before him. Are you hurt?
No.
Mom protected me. Vladimir stood, facing the assembled nobles. The court is destroyed. Over 40 of my people are dead or captured. And you stand here arguing about ownership. His voice dropped to something dangerous. The heir is not property. He is not a political tool. He is a child under my protection. With respect, Your Majesty, Morvina said carefully, the boy's existence destabilizes everything. Every hunter organization now knows vampires are real. Every government will start looking for us. We cannot afford. Then we disappear, Vladimir interrupted. The old ways.
Scattered. Hidden.
Until the storm passes. And the heir? Vargas demanded. Remains with me. And his mother, Vladimir's gaze swept the room. Anyone who disputes this can challenge me. Here.
Now.
No one moved. I thought not, Vladimir turned to Arden. Gather the survivors. Anyone from the court who escaped. We regroup, but separately. No more central locations. And House Vargas? The Lord asked. What are our orders? Protect your people. Nothing more. This is madness, Morvina said. The houses need unity, not division. The houses need to survive. Unity comes later. Vladimir pulled Theo and Arya toward the exit. This council is dismissed. They left to a room full of angry whispers. Outside, Vladimir finally let his shoulders sag. That bought us time. Not much. They want to control him, Arya said. They want to control the future. He represents that. Vladimir looked exhausted. But they're right about one thing. Every day Theo stays visible, he's in danger. So, what do we do? Arya asked. Vladimir met her eyes. We make them forget he exists. The safe house Vladimir chose was a night orphanage in the city's oldest district, a converted church that housed children whose parents worked overnight shifts. The irony wasn't lost on Arya. You're hiding him in plain sight, she said as they approached the Gothic building. Best place for a tree is in a forest. Vladimir's eyes scanned the shadows. The orphanage director is human but sympathetic. She knows what we are. She's helped vampire families before. Inside, children's laughter echoed from upper floors. A woman in her 60s greeted them, her gray hair pulled back in a neat bun. Her eyes were kind but sharp. Eleanor, Vladimir said. I need your help. I heard about the court. Eleanor's gaze softened when she saw Theo. This is the boy everyone's hunting? Yes. He looks like any other child. That's the point, Arya said. Can you hide him? Eleanor studied them both. For how long? As long as it takes for the heat to die down. Vladimir handed her an envelope. This should cover expenses. And silence. Eleanor peeked inside, cash, lots of it, and nodded. He'll need a new name. New identity. His name is Theo, Arya said firmly. Then Theo he stays. But his last name changes. Eleanor smiled at the boy. How about Theo Grant? Nice and simple. Theo looked at his mother. Arya's throat tightened. Her son, taking on a stranger's name to survive. Okay.
Theo Grant.
Good.
Come, Theo.
I'll show you where you'll sleep. Eleanor extended her hand.
Theo Hestita. Mom.
I'll visit every day, Arya promised, though she didn't know if it was true. You'll be safe here. What about you? I'll be with Vladimir, helping however I can. Theo hugged her fiercely. Arya held him, memorizing the feeling, knowing that each goodbye might be their last. When Eleanor led him away, Arya felt something inside her break. He'll be safer without you near, Vladimir said quietly. Hunters track you. Not him. Not yet. I hate this. So do I. He turned toward the exit.
Come.
We have work to do. Over the next 2 weeks, Arya became someone she didn't recognize. Vladimir put her to work as his liaison to the human world, negotiating safe passage through human territories, arranging supply shipments to scattered vampire refugees, using her face and credentials to move through checkpoints where Vladimir couldn't. She learned to lie convincingly, to forge documents, to bribe warehouse workers for blood bags stolen from hospitals. You're good at this, Arden observed one night as they loaded medical supplies into a van. Most humans crack under the pressure. Most humans don't have my motivation, Arya replied. She visited Theo when she could, brief visits where he seemed increasingly comfortable in his new surroundings. He'd made friends, played soccer in the church courtyard, started reading books about mythology that Eleanor provided. But his eyes were changing, the silver flecks expanding, his movements growing more fluid, more precise. He's developing faster than expected, Vladimir said after one visit. The awakening continues despite his human physiology. Is that dangerous? Unknown. We're in uncharted territory. On the 15th night, Arden called a private meeting. They gathered in an abandoned subway car deep in the tunnels. Vladimir, Arya, Arden, Celeste, and Matthias. The old vampire looked frilier than ever. We have a problem, Arden began. House Umbra is moving. Duchess Morvina has been consolidating power, absorbing smaller houses. She's building an army. For what purpose? Vladimir asked. To claim the air. Publicly, Arden pulled up surveillance photos on her tablet, vampires gathering in large numbers, weapons being distributed. She plans to crown herself regent until Theo comes of age. Control him, control the future. She can't do that without the heir, Celeste pointed out. Which is why, Arden said slowly, we should consider her offer. Silence fell like a hammer. What offer?
Arya demanded.
Arden wouldn't meet her eyes. Morvina approached me privately. She's willing to guarantee protection for all surviving refugees. Safe housing, resources, medical care, in exchange for my son. Arya finished coldly. For his cooperation. Not ownership. He'd live well, train properly, become the leader he's meant to be. Under Umbra's control, Vladimir interrupted, his voice deadly quiet. The house that murdered my family, that sealed me in glass for 3 centuries. They've changed, Arden insisted. Morvina is pragmatic. She understands the heir can't be forced. You've been talking to her, Celeste stood, hand moving to her weapon. How long? Since the court fell. Arden's chin lifted. Someone has to think, strategically. We're scattered.
Starving. Hunted.
Morvina offers stability. At what cost? Matthias's voice was sad. Your soul, Arden? Your loyalty? My loyalty is to our people's survival. Arden's composure cracked. Vladimir, you've been sealed away for centuries. You don't understand how bad it's gotten. We're not rulers anymore. We're refugees. Hunted by humans, divided by our own politics. Theo is our only chance to rebuild. By giving him to Umbra? Vladimir's eyes blazed. Never. Then watch our people die, Arden stood. Because that's what's happening. Every day we delay, more vampires are captured, killed, or forced to make deals with humans. Morvina has the resources to save them. This is about more than resources, Arya said quietly. You want power, control. Arden's laugh was bitter. I want survival. There's a difference. She pulled out a small device, a beacon. I'm sorry, she said, but this is bigger than any of us. She pressed the button. Immediately, alarms blared from Vladimir's phone. Security breach. Multiple locations. What did you do? Celeste snarled. I gave Morvina the locations of every safe house. Every refugee hideout. Arden backed toward the subway door. Including the orphanage. Arya's world stopped.
No.
Theo won't be harmed. Morvina swore it. But he needs to be with his own kind, protected properly. Vladimir moved like lightning. His hand closed around Arden's throat, lifting her off the ground. You betrayed us. You betrayed him. I saved us. Arden choked out. This is the only way. Vladimir threw her against the wall. Before she could recover, Celeste was on her, blade drawn. Wait, Matthias said wearily. Killing her changes nothing. The beacon is sent. Vladimir's phone showed a map, reds appearing across the city. Umbra forces converging. The largest concentration centered on the church. How long?
Arya demanded.
10 minutes. Maybe less. Vladimir was already moving. Celeste, Matthias, evacuate every safe location you can reach. Get our people out. And the traitor? Celeste asked, blade still at Arden's throat. Leave her. She'll face justice later. Vladimir grabbed Arya's hand. We run. They fled through the tunnels, Vladimir's speed making Arya stumble to keep up. Her means them wanting. Tau. They emerged 3 blocks from the church. Already, black vehicles surrounded the building. Armed vampires in Umbra uniforms poured through the entrance. We're too late, Arya whispered. Then she heard it, children screaming. Without thinking, she ran toward the church. Vladimir caught her. You'll die. That's my son. And you're human. You can't. A massive explosion ripped through the church's west wing. Flames erupted. More screams. And standing in the church doorway, holding Theo by the arm, was Duchess Morvina. She smiled across the distance, making direct eye contact with Arya. Then she dragged Theo inside and vanished into the smoke. Arya tore free from Vladimir's grip and ran toward the burning church. Arya, wait. Vladimir's shout barely registered. She crashed through the smoke-filled entrance. Inside was chaos. Children crying. Eleanor trying to herd them toward a side exit. Umbra soldiers methodically searching rooms.
Te. Arya screamed.
A soldier blocked her path. She didn't think, just grabbed a candlestick from a toppled stand and swung. It connected with his skull. He dropped. Mom. Theo's voice came from the chapel. Arya sprinted toward it, vaulting over debris, her lungs burning from smoke. She burst through the chapel doors. Duchess Morvina stood at the altar, her hand firmly on Theo's shoulder. The boy's face was defiant, but his eyes showed fear. Around them stood a dozen Umbra vampires, weapons drawn. Mrs. Valdez Morvina's smile was cold. How maternal, rushing into fire for your child. Let him go. I'm afraid I can't do that. You see, Theo and I have been having a fascinating conversation. She looked down at the boy. Tell your mother what you told me.
Theo sợ do cờ lên chết.
I didn't tell you anything.
No.
Not even about the dreams? The visions of vampire kingdoms rising from ashes? Cities where humans and vampires live without fear. Morvina's fingers tightened on his shoulder. This child doesn't just carry royal blood. He carries a prophecy. You're insane, Arya said. Am I? The Forbidden Heir isn't just a title. It's a destiny. Morvina pulled Theo closer. With the right guidance, he could reshape our entire world. Unite every faction. Create true peace. Under your control, Vladimir's voice echoed as he entered the chapel, smoke swirling around him. Blood covered his armor. He'd fought through Morvina's soldiers. That's what this is about. Power. Says the king who let his empire crumble. Morvina gestured, and her soldiers raised weapons. UV-equipped rifles, silver crossbows. Don't move, Vladimir. Even you can't survive this much firepower. Try me. I'd rather not waste resources. Morvina's smile vanished. Here's what happens. You surrender. Stop interfering. Let me train the boy properly. No, Theo said. Everyone looked at him.
No.
Morvina's voice was dangerously soft. I'm not going with you. Theo's eyes blazed silver. The temperature dropped. Frost spread across the chapel floor. Let go of me. Morvina's grip tightened. Child, you don't understand. Theo's power erupted. Ice exploded from his body like a shockwave. Morvina was thrown backward, crashing into pews. Her soldiers scattered, crying out as frost burned their skin. The chapel window shattered.
Theo collapsed, gasping.
Arya ran to him, pulling him into her arms. I've got you, baby. I've got you. That was new, he whispered. Later. Run now. But Umbra soldiers blocked every exit. More poured in from outside. Morvina rose, fury replacing her composure. You dare. The west wall exploded inward. Through the smoke charged vampires, but not Umbra. These wore mismatched armor, carried makeshift weapons. Court refugees. Survivors. Leading them was Celeste, her blade singing as she cut through Umbra soldiers. For the true king. Battle erupted. Arya shielded Theo, pulling him behind the altar. Around them, vampires clashed with supernatural speed and violence. UV lights flared. Silver blades rang. Blood, human and vampire, painted the sacred space. Vladimir fought like a force of nature, cutting through enemies with brutal efficiency. But even he was outnumbered. Then new sounds, sirens. Human sirens. Federal hunters, someone shouted. Through the chapel's broken walls, Arya saw them. Armored trucks, tactical teams, UV flood lamps that turn night into deadly day. This is Federal Paranormal Response. All hostile entities, stand down. The hunters opened fire indiscriminately. Vampires from both sides scattered. Some tried to fight, were cut down by coordinated silver rounds and UV beams. Others fled into the sewers, the alleys, anywhere dark. They're targeting everyone, Morvina hissed. Your king brought this down on us all. You brought this, Vladimir snarled. The moment you activated that beacon. An explosion rocked the chapel's foundation. The The floor cracked. The building was coming down. Mom. Theo grabbed her hand. There. He pointed to a small door behind the altar. The priest's chamber. Arya had seen it during her visits. It connected to underground catacombs. They ran for it. Celeste saw them, broke off from combat and followed. Vladimir dispatched 2 hunters and joined them. Behind them, the chapel collapsed in fire and screaming. They plunged into darkness, down stone steps worn smooth by centuries. The catacombs stretched endlessly, burial niches lining the walls, some still holding ancient bones. Keep moving, Vladimir ordered. These tunnels connect to the old city. We can. The tunnel ahead lit up with UV floods. Hunters had flanked them. Nowhere to run, parasites, the lead hunter called out. Surrender the child and we'll make it quick. Behind them, more lights. Umbra soldiers had followed. They were trapped. Vladimir positioned himself in front of Arya and Theo, weapons ready. Celeste guarded their backs. Both looked at each other, a silent acknowledgement that this might be their last stand. I'm sorry, Vladimir said to Arya. I promised to protect you both. You did, Arya replied. She held Theo tight, feeling his heart racing against hers. You tried. Theo looked up at her, his silver eyes glowing in the darkness. Mom?
I can feel something.
In my chest. Like before, but bigger. Sweetheart, not now. I think I can help. His voice was strange. Older. But I don't know how to control it. Vladimir turned sharply. What do you feel? Like ice. Like power. Like I could. Theo gasped. Like I could make everyone stop. The bloodline manifestation, Vladimir whispered. It's accelerating under extreme stress. But Theo, you're too young. Using that much power could. Could what?
Arya demanded.
Kill him. Or transform him. Vladimir's eyes met hers. Force the vampire genetics to activate fully. He'd survive, but he wouldn't be human anymore. The hunters advanced. The Umbra soldiers closed in. Arya looked at her son, her beautiful, brave boy who'd been thrust into a nightmare. Theo, she said quietly, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to be powerful or special or save anyone. You just have to be my son. That's enough. Tears streaked down Theo's face. But if I don't, they'll take me.
Or kill you.
I can't, I won't. I know, baby. Arya cupped his face.
So I'll make the choice.
Not you. She stood, stepping in front of Vladimir, and addressed both sides. You want the air? Come through me first. The hunters laughed. Morvina, emerging from the Umbra ranks, singed but alive, smiled coldly. But Vladimir understood. He reached into his armor and pulled out a medallion, ancient silver, carved with symbols that seemed to move in the light. The sovereign bond, he said quietly. I was saving this for when he came of age. He pressed it into Arya's hand. It grants absolute authority over vampire law, immunity from attack, protection under the oldest blood oaths. Will it work against humans?
No.
But it will bind every vampire here. He closed her fingers around it. Including me. Arya raised the medallion high. It blazed with silver light, not UV, something else. Something older. Every vampire in the tunnel froze, eyes widening. By the sovereign bond, Arya said, her voice carrying with unexpected authority, I claim protection for Theo Valdmarson. Any vampire who harms him answers to me. Any who tries to control him faces my judgment. Any who dares take him will be marked for true death. The oath settled like chains. Morvina screamed in fury, but couldn't move forward. The Umbra soldiers backed away as if burned. Only the hunters remained a threat. Touching, the lead hunter said. But we don't answer to vampire magic. He raised his weapon. Vladimir moved to strike, but the hunter was faster. The shot rang out. And everything changed. The bullet hung in midair. Not frozen, suspended. Rotating slowly in a sphere of crystalline ice that had materialized between Arya and the hunter. Every eye turned to Theo. The boy stood with his hand outstretched, silver energy crackling around his fingers. His eyes blazed pure white. Frost spread across the floor, up the walls, coating everything in a thin layer of ice. Don't
touch my
mother. Each word dropped the temperature further. The hunters retreated a step. Even their equipment designed to kill vampires had no protocol for this. What is he? One whispered. Target acquired. Another spoke into his radio. Subject displays unknown paranormal abilities. Requesting. Theo clenched his fist. The ice sphere shattered, sending frozen shrapnel in every direction. Hunters dove for cover. Vampires shielded their faces. Arya grabbed his arm. His skin was cold as death. Stop. You're losing control. I can't. Theo's voice fractured. It won't stop. Power radiated from him in waves. The catacombs groaned. Ancient stone cracked. Burial niches shattered, spilling bones. Vladimir moved behind Theo, placing his hands on the boy's shoulders. Listen to my voice. The power is yours. You command it, not the other way around. It's too much. Then release it slowly, like breathing, in and out. Theo squeezed his eyes shut. The white glow flickered. The temperature stabilized. Slowly, painfully, he pulled the power back inside. The moment it faded, his legs gave out. Vladimir caught him before he hit the ground. He needs rest, Vladimir said. That much power from an untrained child, he could have killed himself. Or all of us, Morvina added, her voice holding grudging respect. She approached slowly, hands raised in peace. The boy is more powerful than any of us imagined. Stay back, Arya warned, the sovereign bond still clutched in her hand. I mean no harm. Not anymore, Morvina gestured to her soldiers. Stand down. All of you. Duchess, one questioned. You heard me. The battle is over. The lead hunter stepped forward, weapons still raised. Maybe for you freaks, but we have orders. To capture or kill vampire threats, Morvina interrupted. Look around, human. Every vampire here just witnessed that child nearly collapse this entire structure. Do you really want to provoke him again? The hunter hesitated. Moreover, Morvina continued, I invoke historical preservation protocol. These catacombs are on the National Register. Any combat here risks destroying irreplaceable artifacts. Your superiors will have your badge. It was a bluff, but it worked. The hunter lowered his weapon slightly, speaking into his radio. Command, we need guidance. Situation has evolved. Evacuation order. Came the response through static. Buildings unstable. Pull back and establish perimeter. Civilian safety priority. The hunters withdrew, casting wary glances at Theo's unconscious form. Once they were gone, Morvina approached Vladimir. We need to talk. We have nothing to discuss. Don't we? Morvina gestured to the cracked walls, the shattered ice, the devastation Theo had caused with a thought. That child is a weapon of mass destruction waiting to happen. Untrained, unstable, and utterly vulnerable. How long before he accidentally kills his own mother? Arya's blood ran cold. He would never, not intentionally, but power that strong, that raw. Morvina shook her head. It will consume him, unless he learns control. Then I'll teach him, Vladimir said. You were sealed for 3 centuries. Vampire powers have evolved. Techniques have changed. Morvina's expression was deadly serious. Like it or not, I have resources you need. Training facilities, experienced mentors, medical equipment that can monitor his developing abilities. At what price? No price.
No ownership.
No control. Morvina met his eyes. I was wrong to try to force this. Arden was wrong. The boy must choose his own path. She glanced at Theo. But without proper training, he won't live long enough to make that choice. Silence fell, broken only by distant sirens and the settling of damaged stone. Celeste spoke up. She's not wrong. That power surge? If he'd held it 5 seconds longer, his heart would have stopped. How do you know?
Arya demanded.
Because I've seen it before. Young vampires trying to use abilities beyond their strength. They burn out from the inside. Celeste's expression was grim. The boy needs help we can't provide alone. Vladimir stared at Morvina for a long moment. If I agree, what are your terms? Joint custody, so to speak. The heir trains under both our supervision. Lives with his mother in neutral territory. Receives education from multiple houses, not just Umbra. Morvina extended her hand. And when he comes of age, he decides his own future. Crown or no crown. Vampire or human. His choice. Why would you agree to that? Arya asked suspiciously. You wanted control. I wanted stability. But after seeing what he can do. Morvina smiled slightly. The only stability comes from keeping him alive and sane. Everything else is negotiable. Vladimir looked at Arya. It's your decision. You hold the bond. Arya looked at her unconscious son, his face peaceful despite the power that had nearly killed him. She thought about the hunters, the vampire politics, the endless running and hiding. She thought about Theo asking why he was different, why he had nightmares, why his mother was always scared. I have conditions, she said finally.
Name them, Morvina replied.
Theo goes to regular school, has normal friends, gets to be a kid. Arya's voice hardened. Training happens on weekends and evenings. He plays sports, does homework, has sleepovers. You don't take his childhood. Agreed. He doesn't make any permanent decisions, crowning any of it until he's 18.
Minimum.
Agreed. And if anyone tries to hurt him, control him, or use him? Arya held up the sovereign bond. I invoke this, and you all answer to me. Morvina actually smiled. You should have been born vampire, Mrs. Valdez. You have the spine for it. I have the spine because I'm his mother. Arya knelt beside Theo, brushing hair from his forehead. That's all I need to be. Vladimir placed his hand over hers and the bond. Then it settled. The heir trains in secret, lives in light, and when the time comes, he chooses. Arya finished. Not you, not Morvina, not destiny or prophecy or ancient bloodlines. She looked up at the assembled vampires. He chooses. The bond flared with silver light, sealing the oath. Theo's eyes fluttered open. Mom, I'm here, baby. Did I hurt anyone?
No.
You protected us. She helped him sit up. How do you feel? Tired. Really tired. He noticed the vampires around them. Are they still fighting?
No.
Fighting's over. Vladimir crouched beside them. We're trying something new.
Peace.
Does that mean I can go home? Arya's throat tightened. We don't have a home right now, sweetheart. Then we'll make one, Vladimir said. All of us. 6 months later, Arya locked the front door of their new apartment, a modest 2-bedroom in a neighborhood that asked no questions. She could hear Theo inside, arguing with his math homework loud enough for the neighbors to hear. Normal. Wonderfully, beautifully normal. She carried groceries upstairs, stepping over a baseball glove Theo had left in the hall. The apartment smelled like the cookies she'd baked that morning, another small rebellion against the chaos that had consumed their lives. Mom, Theo called from his room. I can't figure out problem 7. Then use your brain, not your powers, she called back. I wasn't. She smiled. 3 months ago, that would have been a real concern. Now, it was just a joke between them. Arya unpacked groceries, her hands moving through familiar rhythms. Milk in the fridge. Bread in the bin. Her reflection caught in the microwave door. She looked tired but healthier. No more sleeping in cars. No more eviction notices. The sovereign bond sat in a drawer by her bed. She'd only had to use it twice, once when a rogue vampire from House Vargas got too curious, and once when a hunter tracked them down. Both times, the ancient authority had protected them. But mostly, she didn't need it. The word had spread. The heir's mother was off limits. A knock at the door. Arya checked the peephole. Vladimir, wearing a surprisingly normal jacket and jeans. He'd learned to blend in better. She opened up. You're early. Traffic was light. He stepped inside, glancing around. Is he ready? Almost.
Tay.
Vladimir's here. Theo emerged from his room, backpack slung over one shoulder. He'd grown 2 inches in 6 months. His eyes still carried those silver flecks, but they'd stabilized. No more uncontrolled surges. Can we practice the ice shield today? Theo asked eagerly. I almost had it last week. If you finish your defensive forms first, Vladimir replied. Your footwork is sloppy. It is not. Then prove me wrong. They headed for the door. Training happened in a converted warehouse on the city's edge, neutral territory where representatives from multiple houses could observe. Part of the agreement. Back by 9, Arya said. School tomorrow. I know, Mom. She watched them leave, her 8-year-old son and the ancient vampire king, discussing combat techniques like it was the most natural thing in the world. Maybe it was.
Now.
At the training facility, Theo changed into practice gear while Vladimir reviewed the session plan with Celeste. She'd become head of security, coordinating protection across multiple factions. House Umbra sent new recruits, Celeste reported. 3 volunteers for evening patrol. Background checks cleared. And House Vargas. Lord Vargas himself wants to visit next week. Says he has historical texts about the original vampire-human treaties that might help Theo understand his heritage. Vladimir nodded. The houses had fallen into an uneasy cooperation. Not unity. That would take decades, maybe centuries. But cooperation. It was a start. Theo emerged, bouncing on his toes. Ready. They began with basics. Footwork. Balance. Reading an opponent's movement. Vladimir was a strict but patient teacher, correcting Theo's form, praising improvements. Then they moved to powers. Center yourself, Vladimir instructed. Feel the cold inside. Don't force it. Guide it. Theo closed his eyes. Frost formed on his fingertips, spreading slowly into a small sphere of ice. Controlled. Precise. Good. Now maintain it while I attack. Vladimir lunged. Theo spun, keeping the ice sphere stable. His movements were faster than human, but not vampire fast. Something in between. They sparred for an hour. When they finished, Theo was sweating but smiling.
You're improving, Vladimir said.
In another year, you might actually challenge me. Only a year?
Theo gật đi.
I'm being generous. Morvina arrived as they cooled down, carrying documents. She'd kept her word, providing resources, but maintaining distance. She nodded to Vladimir. The Hunter Treaty negotiations are tomorrow. You'll attend?
Yes.
Though I doubt they'll agree to mutual territory recognition. They will eventually. Fear is a powerful motivator, she glanced at Theo. Especially fear of what he might become.
Theo then said.
He didn't like being discussed like a weapon. Vladimir placed a hand on his shoulder. What he becomes is his choice. We've established that. Of course, Morvina's smile was thin. I simply meant that his existence has already changed the game. Hunters are negotiating. Houses are cooperating. All because of one boy. One boy who just wants to play baseball and eat pizza, Celeste added dryly.
Theo lâu get.
Can we get pizza on the way home? Ask your mother. They stopped for pizza. Arya met them at the restaurant. She'd started working again. Office cleaning during school hours. Honest work. Legal work. Over pepperoni and cheese, they looked like any other family. A single mom. Her son. A family friend who joined them for dinner. No one noticed the silver in Theo's eyes. The way Vladimir's reflection in the window was slightly off. The sovereign bond hidden in Arya's purse. How was school? Vladimir asked.
Boring.
We learned about the Revolutionary War. Again, Theo took a massive bite. I could tell them what really happened, but nobody would believe me. Keep it that way, Arya said firmly. You're a normal kid who likes history. That's the story. I know, Mom. After dinner, Vladimir walked them home. At their building entrance, he paused. I'll be away next week. Matthias needs help relocating the southern refugees. We'll be okay, Arya assured him. I know you will, he looked at Theo. Practice your forms. And do your homework. You sound like Mom. Your mother is usually right. Vladimir left, disappearing into shadows like he'd never existed. Upstairs, Arya tucked Theo into bed, something she'd been terrified she'd never get to do again. "Mom?" Theo's voice was sleepy. "Are we safe now?" She thought about the hunters, the rival houses, the bounty that still existed on dark web forums, the reality that her son carried power that terrified governments and vampire lords alike. "We're safer," she said honestly. "And we're together. That's what matters." "Do you think I'll have to choose?"
Someday?
"Between being human or vampire?" "Maybe. But not tonight. Tonight, you're just my son." "Good," he yawned. "Because I like being your son." Arya kissed his forehead. "I like it too, baby." She turned off the light and stood in the doorway, watching him sleep. Silver moonlight filtered through the window, catching the faint glow in his eyes even when closed. The forbidden heir. The prophesied child. The bridge between worlds. But tonight he was just Theo. 8 years old. Dreaming of baseball and pizza and math homework. Tomorrow might bring hunters or vampire politics or power surges. Tomorrow might demand choices between kingdoms and humanity. But tonight, Arya Valdez had won something more important than any crown or treaty. She'd kept her son safe, given him a childhood, made sure he knew that whatever powers lived in his blood, whatever destiny the prophecies claimed for him, he was loved first. Not as an heir, not as a weapon, not as a symbol, as her son. And in a world of vampires and violence and ancient blood oaths, that was the greatest power of all. Outside, in the shadows, Vladimir watched their window. Celeste joined him, silent. "Think it'll last?" she asked. "The peace."
No.
"Peace never lasts." Vladimir's eyes glowed silver in the darkness. "But it's a start. And that boy, he's the bridge we've needed for centuries. Or the match that burns everything down." Perhaps Vladimir smiled slightly. "But his mother won't let him burn alone. And neither will I." They vanished into the night, leaving the city to its uneasy quiet. In his bed, Theo dreamed not of kingdoms or battles, but of tomorrow's baseball game. And for now, that was enough. The end.